Last week we looked at Rehoboam and Jeroboam, and we looked at Jeroboam the first, the son of Naboth. And we saw that he was a bad king, that he rejected God. He had the two golden calves. There was war between him and Judah. God warned him. God sent a prophet. Um, his son died. Why? Because God found something good in him and didn't want him to go through the difficulties of being alive when Jeroboam's house was destroyed. Now, what happens is in Kings, there is a change. There's a switch between the kings of Judah and the kings of Israel. So the king of Israel is always mentioned first, and then it discusses the whole reign of the king until he dies. And then it goes back and picks up with Judah. And you discuss the Judean king, and then you discuss the next Judean king until they pass the death date of the northern kingdom. And then you go back to the northern kingdom. And so that's kind of the way it is. Um, in Chronicles, all the northern kingdoms kings are known. They are just not discussed, or they are discussed in relationship to the king of Judah. Now, before we look at it, um, I need to tell you something. Um, I want you to look at this bird. See this bird right here? Can you see it? See it right there? Okay. Tell me what you see.
The yellow bird.
Yellow bird. Okay. Gabi, what do you see?
I see orange peak and orange on the bottom.
Orange peak. Oh, are you seeing the same bird?
Yes.
Okay. So you are accurate in your description, but your description is different. Now let's look at the bird from a different side. Let's see. What do you see now?
Black eyes and a beak.
What do you see, Dolly?
Black eye and a
Black
beak,
eye.
orange beak.
Okay. Does any of you see, do any of you see a tail?
Yes.
Okay. When you look at it this way, did you see a tail?
No.
Okay. This way you see a tail. When you look at it this way, Dolly, do you see the black eye?
No, not anymore.
What do you see?
Only the tail and the
Only the
wings.
tail and maybe a little bit of the feathers right here. See
Feathers,
that?
yes.
Now, when we look at it this way, what do you see? Does it look like a bird?
No.
Not really. Hole in the
Not
bottom.
really. I know of no bird that has a hole in the middle. If I tell you it's a bird, you might be able to see the beak and the tail, but you don't see any wings, you don't see anything like that. So when we look at things, we can observe correctly, but we look at things from a different point of view. And then when we describe what we see from a different point of view, the description is different. It's not that we are wrong. It's not that we are contradicting each other. It is just we have a different standpoint. Okay? Now, that is true when you look at art, when you read a book, when you listen to a song, when you hear a conversation, when there's conflict, when there's praise. It is all determined from your point of view. Okay? So when we're going to look at Rehoboam, First Kings and Second Kings will have a different point of view. Hey, Kathy, could you get me my tea? I forgot to get it. It's over there. Now, let's look at Kings. Now, when I had asked you to read that, and that's in First Kings chapter 14, verse 21 through 31. And let me just kind of summarize it for you, and then we're going to look at Chronicles. Rehoboam becomes king when he's 41. He reigns for 17 years. He gets to be the king of a kingdom that already has problems. I mean, his father's reign was really good, but it cost oodles of money. And there were high taxes. And so when Solomon died, they said, we would like to reduce the taxes. And the older advisors said, reduce the taxes. The younger advisors said, that is a insult. And Rehoboam listened to the wrong advisors. He listened to the young advisors, and he was foolish. And the result of his foolishness is the kingdom is divided. When you look at Kings, look at verse 22. Judah did evil in the sight of the Lord. By the sins they committed, they stirred up his jealous anger more than their forefathers had done. Okay, well, that's kind of bad. When we think about their ancestors, we can think about the people in the desert, not good. We think about the people who conquered the land, not good. We think about the days of the judges. That's only not good, that's terrible. We think about Saul. He was worse than terrible. We think about David. He was not really good, but okay. And Solomon was the wisest fool who ever lived. And these people were worse than all of them put together. Notice what it says. They set up for themselves high places, sacred stones, Asherah poles on every high hill and under every spreading tree. So in Israel, you would not go walk in the woods because you would see couples having sex with each other all over. That sounds pretty bad, doesn't it? In addition, they even had male prostitutes. And the people engaged in all the detestable practices of the nations the Lord had driven out before the Israelites. Does that sound bad? It sounds worse than it is today, isn't it? Doesn't it? At least in Germany, you say you have to have prostitution in certain places. There, all over. By the way, where did he learn that? From his father. Remember? His father built all these high places for all the foreign women. And did you notice in verse 21? His mother's name was Naamat, and she was an Ammonite. So she is a foreign woman who worshiped foreign gods, and he did that as well. So, not good. Notice what happens. In the 5th year of King Rehoboam, Shishak, the king of Egypt, attacked Jerusalem. And he carried off the treasures from the temple of the Lord and the royal palace. He took everything, including all the gold shields Solomon had made. So when we think about this Temple of Solomon, we think of all the gold and everything. It was all removed. It was taken away down to Egypt. Even the golden shields that Solomon made. So King Rehoboam made bronze shields to replace them and assigned them to the commanders of the guard on duty at the entrance of the royal palace. And whenever the king went to the Lord's temple, the guards brought out the shields, and afterwards they returned them to the guard room. Okay, well, they didn't want to go without shields, but they can't afford golden shields anymore. Now they're bronze. So it is not good. As for the other events of Rehoboam's reign and all he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? He did a lot more not interesting to this writer. There was continual warfare between Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Rehoboam retained Judah and Benjamin, some of the vassal territories, and he didn't want to accept the division, and he fought against them. And the Egyptian king Shishak came and was God's discipline on Judah for idolatry. Does that sound like a good king? You see God's grace. He's still mentioned in the lineage of the Lord Jesus. Okay, now let's look at Chronicles and see how Chronicles describes him. Remember, it's the same events, but different viewpoints. In Kings, the question is, what happened to the kingdom of Israel and Judah? How could it be that with the Davidic covenant, they were captured, the temple was burned, and they went into exile? How can that be? And you see one of the answers already with Rehoboam: idolatry, doing evil. And doing evil brings divine discipline. Okay? Now let's look at Rehoboam in Chronicles. Chronicles has a different question. They've gone through the exile. They have come back. They are struggling to please God. And the writer of Chronicles asks the question, what can we learn from the past, and how should that change the way we live? Okay, so let's look at Rehoboam in 2 Chronicles 10. In 2 Chronicles 10, we see the division of the kingdom. It's the same story, but notice the last verse. So Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David to this day. So they don't, the writer of Chronicles doesn't see this as, God splitting the kingdom. He sees this as the northern kingdom rebelling against Judah. And remember why? They didn't want to pay their taxes. Now, in Germany, we all have to pay our taxes. Who likes to pay taxes in Germany? Raise your hand. Nobody. I agree with you. And if we don't pay our taxes, people will come and talk to us. And they will let us have a vacation. And we won't have to pay anything for room and board. We can stay there for a good while. And the reason is we are in rebellion against the government. And that's the way Chronicles sees the Northern Kingdom. They are in rebellion against the government. The problem is there were so many people in rebellion, they didn't have enough room in the jail. So just imagine Nordrhein-Westfalen and Bayern and Mecklenburg-Vorpommern and Rhineland-Pfalz and Hessen say, we refuse to pay taxes. We don't like the government. Merz can't put all of us in jail. It's just too much. Okay? And that's this rebellion. Notice what happens in chapter 11. When Rehoboam arrived in Jerusalem, he mustered the house of Judah and Benjamin, 180,000 fighting men to make war against Israel and to regain the kingdom for Rehoboam. So that's going to be a civil war. And a man of God by the name of Shemaiah said, don't go fight against your brother. This is my doing. And so they obeyed the word of the Lord, the words of the Lord, and turned back and didn't march against Jeroboam. So let me ask you a question. What do you think about that? Is Rehoboam good or not so good? Gabi, I can't hear you. I see you talking.
No, I'm translating for Rüdiger. So
okay, good. No
we have
problem.
this saying, auch ein blindes Huhn findet mal ein Korn. So
Yes.
he did something good.
And actually, that's good. He listens to the prophet and he obeys to a degree. But remember what it said in Kings? There was always war. So, yes, he obeyed to a degree. He didn't really obey. But it's better than the first part of his reign, where he listened to the younger advisors and he lost the kingdom. So now he listens to the prophet and he obeys somewhat. Not really good, but better than disobeying. So Rehoboam lived in Jerusalem and he built up the towns for defense and he strengthened their defenses and he supplied with supplies of food and olive oil and wine. He put shields and spears in all the cities and made them very strong. So Judah and Benjamin were his. So he has an emphasis on protecting the land and making sure that everybody is safe. The priests and the Levites from all of Israel came and sided with him. They left their homelands and property and came to Judah and Jerusalem because of Jeroboam and his sons had rejected them as priests of the Lord. He appointed his own priests, and so they came to Judah. Notice verse 16. Those from every tribe who set their hearts on seeking the Lord, the God of Israel, followed the Levites to Jerusalem to offer sacrifices to the Lord. And they strengthened the kingdom of Judah and supported Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, 3 years, walking in the ways of David and Solomon during this time. So the first thing, he was not real smart. After that, he listened to the prophets. He tried to do what is right, and things went okay. Now, did you notice that is not mentioned in Kings? Notice his family. Rehoboam married Mahalath, who was the daughter of David's son Jeromoth, and of Abihail, the daughter of Jesse's son Eliab. And she had sons. And then he married Maachah, the daughter of Absalom. And Rehoboam loved Maachah, the daughter of Absalom, more than any other of his wives and concubines. And you say, wait just a minute. I thought the king was not supposed to multiply wives. Well, that's not. Notice what it says. In all, he had 18 wives and 60 concubines and 28 sons and 60 daughters.
Well, buddy, that's 18 or what? No, some 70 wives is better than 200 or 700 or what?
Yes,
what
well,
David
it's
did.
better than Solomon. It's better than Solomon. But
Okay.
where did he learn that?
Yeah.
From his father. And Rehoboam appointed Abijah, the son of Maachah, to be the chief prince among his peoples in order to make him king. And he acted wisely. And he dispersed some of his sons throughout the districts of Benjamin and Judah, and to all the fortified cities. And he gave them ample provisions and took, notice what it says, and took many
Here we
wives for
go
them.
again.
So what Solomon did, Rehoboam did. And then Rehoboam helped his sons and gave them many wives. It doesn't say how many wives each son got, but more than one. And already you have the feeling something isn't right. You see that? You know, he's following the ways of the Lord. He's doing the right thing. But then he marries. He loves Makkah. He has lots of wives. He has 28 sons and 60 daughters. Who knows how many daughter-in-laws? Notice chapter 1 and verse 12. He had become strong, and all Israel with him. They abandoned the laws of the Lord. So see, he starts out well, and then something happens. They abandoned the law of the Lord. Okay, Dolly, you have a question?
Yes. So I think the priests and the Levites are to blame, aren't they? Because they were supposed to lead him, or he was listening to them at a certain point, and to lead the people into
Well,
following God's ways.
that is true. The priests and the Levites are to blame, but the king is responsible. So, for example, I hope this never happens. Let's say somebody in our church robs a bank. Is Johannes responsible for that? Now, Pastor Buddy would never be responsible, but Johannes can be responsible.
Why should he?
Well, I mean, he's the pastor. He should be helping. He should have said, you can't do that.
What
Well,
if he doesn't know? I think the guy wouldn't
yeah.
have told him.
So you see what I mean? The priests and Levites could be doing their job,
Mm.
and Rehoboam just doesn't listen.
Yeah.
But I do think Dolly has a point. What we don't see is the priests and the Levites saying, no, don't do that. Do you remember how he's described in Kings? All the horrible things that they did. And it starts off by abandoning
God's
the
law.
law of the Lord. Notice how it's described in verse 2. Because they had been unfaithful to the Lord, Shishak, the king of Egypt, attacked Jerusalem in the 5th year of Rehoboam. Do you remember? In Kings, you have an emphasis on what they did, all the horrible things that they did. Here, it's summarized in 2 words. They abandoned the law and they were unfaithful to the Lord. And the consequence of that is they are attacked. He captured the fortified city of Judah, and he came as far as Jerusalem.
Where is that?
That's in verse
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
4.
I see. I see.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Notice what happens in verse 5. Then the prophet Shemaiah came to Rehoboam and to the leaders of Judah who had assembled in Jerusalem for fear of Shishak. Okay, Dolly, this is what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted somebody to respond. It's not the priests and the Levites, it's a prophet. Shemaiah, and his name means he listens to the Lord. This is what the Lord says. You have abandoned me. Therefore, now I abandon you to Shishak. Now, how could he respond? He could have said, "You old fuddy-duddy, you are crazy. This is not right. Put him in prison. You are a traitor and working for the Egyptians. You just believe in old-fashioned ways. Here, we're a modern kingdom. We have religious freedom. Any Canaanite can come here and worship. We accept foreign gods. No problem. You are just much too conservative." Verse 6, the leaders of Israel and the king humbled themselves and said, "The Lord is just." Now, this in Chronicles, this word for humbling means they recognize their sin, they confess their sin, they say what is happening is what we deserve. Did you notice? No explanations. Well, my father, Solomon, did this. Well, we have to be more modern. Well, the people didn't wanted this. Oh, it's the priest and the Levites who's at fault. No, who's at fault? I am. And that we are in a really bad situation, it's my fault. And God is just. Okay, now let me stop there. One of the reasons God disciplines people, both in the Old Testament and the New Testament, is to bring them to their knees so they repent. And when they repent and ask for forgiveness, he then says, "Now I can help you." Notice what happens. Verse 7. When the Lord saw that they had humbled themselves, this word of the Lord came to Shemaiah. Did you notice? Shemaiah delivered his message, then he left. And Rehoboam and the leadership said, "Shemaiah's right. God is just." And God gives Shemaiah another message. Since they have humbled themselves, I will not destroy them, but will give them deliverance. My wrath will not be poured out on Jerusalem through Shishak. I will deliver them. They will, however, become subject to him. Why? So they may learn the difference between serving me and serving the kings of other lands. With me, I'm a gracious king. I am patient. I am merciful. And I am just. I am only interested in your benefit. And the other kings? Is Shishak interested in the benefits for Rehoboam? No. He's interested in how much money can you pay? How much power can I get by controlling you? And you're going to serve him so that you know how good you had it with me. When the Shishak, the king of Egypt, attacked Jerusalem, he carried off the treasuries from the temple of the Lord and the treasuries from the royal palace. He took everything, including the golden shields Solomon had made. So King Rehoboam made bronze shields to replace them and assigned them to the commanders of the guard on duty at the entrance of the royal palace. Whenever the king went to the Lord's temple, the guards went with him bearing the shields and afterward returned them to the guard room, exactly like it was in Kings. Now you have the summary. King Rehoboam established himself firmly in Jerusalem and continued as king. He was 41 years old when he became king. He reigned for 17 years in Jerusalem, the city the Lord had chosen out of all of the tribes of Israel to put his name. His mother was Naamah. She was an Ammonite. He did evil because he did not set his heart on seeking the Lord. I want you to look at something. Read that again, verse 14. He did evil because he had not set his heart on seeking the Lord. Okay? Now look at 11, verse 17. Notice the last part of the verse. He was walking in the ways of David and Solomon during this time. 3 years. He walked in the ways of David and Solomon. He did okay. And after that, he did evil. He had not set his heart on seeking the Lord. And this is going to be a continual theme in the book of Chronicles. God is gracious. God helps. God sets up, and you start out good. Then something happens. And something happens, and you just forget. Or you choose to go another way. As for the events of Rehoboam's reign, from beginning to end, are they not written in the records of Shemaiah the prophet and of Iddo the seer, who dealt with genealogies? There was continual warfare between Rehoboam and Jeroboam. And Rehoboam rested with his fathers and was buried in the city of David, and Abijah succeeded him as king. During the time of his being faithful, Rehoboam was successful. The priests, the Levites, the God seekers relocated to Jerusalem. He listened to the prophet, but Not exactly. And then with Shishak coming, he decided we need to change. And he humbled himself. As I think about Rehoboam, I think there are two things or three things that you can remember. Seek counsel from good people, not just different perspectives, not just people to agree with you. Seek counsel from good people. When the revelation of God, that's through the prophets or through our Bible, tells us, don't do this. Don't argue. Accept it. That's what it means to humble yourself before God. We don't argue. We say, right. The second thing that I think we can learn from him, our choices have consequences beyond us. My choices have consequences for a school, for a church. My choices have consequences for my family, for my kids, for my grandkids, for people who pray for us and support us. And our choices go far beyond us. And it makes it imperative that we think about our choices before we act. Because when we act, we can't take it back. And lots of people will suffer. Just think if Rehoboam had thought about his choices. How was it growing up in a family of Solomon with 1,000 wives? How was it to have how many brothers and sisters? If every wife had two, that's 2,000 brothers and sisters. Lucy, how would that be if you had 2,000 brothers and sisters?
I would be a messed up kid.
You're right.
Yeah.
Just imagine, it would be great to get birthday presents from them. That
Yeah.
would be great. But then you had 2,000 birthdays to go to and give each one a present.
That would be a mess.
I would say, you don't give me anything and I won't give you anything and we won't see each other. That is a mess.
Yeah. And also there is competition among.
Oh, yes. It's all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
We had one lady in the church. She's not here anymore. She had how many? 17 brothers and sisters? That's nothing compared to what? 88 siblings. That's a mess.
Yeah.
And if he had just thought about it, he would have said, we don't want to do this. Did you
Yeah.
notice he not only did it, he helped his sons have many wives. So he repeated the mistake of his father, and he helped his sons repeat the mistake. He should have said, hey, Solomon was disobedient and worshiped other gods. That's why 10 tribes are gone. I'm not going to do that. And he didn't. And he didn't think about that. He just said, let's just go our merry way. And then when the third thing, when difficulties came and God disciplined, he responded correctly. And he had to trust God's grace to work through the failures of his kingdom and the failures of others. The consequences of his poor leadership are real. But God in his grace takes our mistakes and turns them into something good. There is hope for restoration. The condition is repentance. Okay. You see how there are two different viewpoints to Rehoboam? Let's see if we can look at Abijah. Abijah is his son, and we have him in 1 Kings 2. 1 Kings chapter, let's see, 15, I think.
15.
Yeah. And in the 18th year of the reign of Jeroboam, Abijah became king of Judah, and he reigned in Judah for 3 years. His mother was Maachah, the daughter of Absalom. And he committed, notice what it says about him, he committed all the sins of his father he had done before him. And his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been. Now there's something that happens in verse 4. Nevertheless, for David's sake, God, the Lord his God, gave him a lamp in Jerusalem by raising up a son to succeed him and by making Jerusalem strong. For David had done what is right in the eyes of the Lord and had not failed to keep any of the Lord's commands all the days of his life, except in the case of Uriah the Hittite. So when we think about Abijah, what do you think about him in Kings? Good king, bad king?
Bad king.
Bad king. Why? His heart is not fully devoted to the Lord. He continued in the sins of his father. You remember what it said in Kings? They were worse than all their ancestors. So Abijah is bad. He's a messed up son. You know what his name means, Abijah? Abi means my father. Yah means the Lord. The Lord is my father. And he does all these bad things. Notice God's grace even in his life. Nevertheless, for David's sake, God gave him a lamp in Jerusalem. So this term for lamp means this. David's life lives through Solomon. And Solomon's life lives through Rehoboam. And Rehoboam's life lives through Abijah. And Abijah's life lives through his son Asa. And even though Abijah was really bad, God's going to give him a great son. His name is Asa. Notice he said, he's going to raise up a son to succeed him, and by making Israel strong. Now, there was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam throughout Abijah's life. Continuous civil war. As for the other events of Abijah's reign and all he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? And there was war between Abijah and Jeroboam. And Abijah rested with his fathers and was buried in the city of David. And Asa, his son, succeeded him. So, do you see anything that Abijah did that was right?
He humbled himself once.
Not Abijah,
Not
not in
about.
Kings.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, not in Kings.
Yeah.
You know, it says he was not fully devoted to the Father,
Yeah.
to the Lord.
No, that
But
was
because of David, God
Yeah.
gave him a son, Asa. Just look at, we won't talk about Asa tonight, but just look at verse 11, what it says about him. And Asa did what was right in the sight of the Lord, as David his father had done. So Asa is going to be really good to a degree. Okay, now let's look at what 2nd Chronicles says about Abijah. 2nd Chronicles
14.
14.
Hey.
Mhm.
Nee,
13. 13.
13.
So in the 18th year of the reign of Jeroboam, Abijah became king of Judah, and he reigned in Jerusalem for 3 years. And his mother's name was Maacah. And there was war between Abijah and Jeroboam. And now this war is going to be described. Do you remember in Kings, they just said there was war. Now there's going to be a description of the war. And Abijah went to battle with a force of, notice what it says, 400,000 able fighting men. And Jeroboam drew up a battle line against him with 800,000 able troops. So Jeroboam has twice as many men. That is not a good fight. And Abijah stood on the mount in the hill country of Ephraim and said, Jeroboam, all of Israel, listen to me. Don't you know that the Lord, the God of Israel, has given the kingship of Israel to David and his descendants by a covenant of salt? That means an eternal covenant. Yet Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an official of Solomon, rebelled against his master. Did you notice again this term, rebelled? Some worthless scoundrels gathered around him and opposed Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, when he was young and indecisive and not strong enough to resist him. So who's at fault? Those worthless scoundrels who were advisors. And now you plan to resist the kingdom of the Lord, which is in the hands of David's descendants. You are indeed a vast army, and you have your golden calves that Jeroboam had, and that Jeroboam made you to be your gods. But didn't you drive out the priests of the Lord and the sons of Aaron and the Levites and made priests of your own? As for us, verse 10, the Lord is our God, and we have not forsaken him. Our priests are sons of Aaron's. We offer sacrifice. God is with us. Notice verse 11 and 12. You have forsaken him. God is with us. He is our leader. While Abijah is talking, notice what Jeroboam does. He divides his army. He has some in the front, and he sends a lot of the army around them into the back of them. And there was an ambush. Now, when you walk into an ambush, you have a problem, particularly when there are twice as many soldiers against you as what you have. There's an ambush. And you can fight in the front, and you can fight in the back, and you're dividing your forces. Notice what happened. Verse 14.
God defends them.
Judah turned and saw they were being attacked at both front and rear. Then they cried out to the Lord. The priests blew their trumpets, and the men of Judah raised the battle cry. And at the sound of the battle cry, God routed Jeroboam and all of Israel before Abijah in Judah. And the Israelites fled before Judah, and God delivered them into their hands. And Abijah and his men inflicted heavy losses on them, so that there were 500,000 casualties. That's 5/8 of his army is dead. And the men of Israel were subdued on that occasion. And the men of Judah were victorious because they relied on the Lord, the God of their fathers. Notice verse 21. And Abijah grew in strength, and he married 14 wives and had 22 sons and 16 daughters. In chapter 14, verse 1, Abijah rested with his fathers and was buried in the city of David, and his son succeeded him as king. And in his day, Asa's day, the country was at peace for 10 years. When you think about Abijah, well, you tell me what you think. Good king, bad king? Actually, bad king, right? Bad king. But When there came the chance for him to trust God, he did. When it really counted, he trusted God. And he called out to God, and God helped him. So, not really good, but he trusted God. He called out to God. And why did he do that? He had no other alternative. He's outgunned, outnumbered. He's in an ambush. He's going to lose everything. And he cried out to God, and God helped him. Did you notice what it said? Verse 16. The Israelites fled before Judah, and God delivered them into their hands. Notice verse 18. The men of Judah were victorious because they relied on the Lord. And that leads me to an application. It doesn't really matter how bad you are. When you turn to God and you ask for his help, he does. He doesn't say, well, Abijah, you've been really bad for these last so many years, year and a half. He doesn't say, well, I've been keeping score. What have you been doing wrong? I'm going to weigh it out, and then you're lacking. So sorry. Well, you've been bad, and I've decided not to help. And when it really counted, God helped. The sad thing about Abijah is he really didn't learn. You know, at the end, he had 14 wives, 22 sons, 16 daughters. And he continued the same way as his father and grandfather. In Chronicles, he is somebody that turns to God in his need, and God helps them. And then he just continues the way he is. So I would need you to help me. Which one is better, Abijah or Rehoboam?
None of them.
None of them. Yeah, I think you're right. Abijah may be a little bit better, but not much. And Abijah and Rehoboam, God both worked in their lives, even though they were really bad kings. They messed up their country. They messed up their family. And God still helped. And that leads me to one last conclusion. God's grace is not dependent on my performance. God's grace is dependent on my confession.
On my what?
On my confession
Oh, okay.
or humility or saying, I really need you. God's grace is not dependent upon my performance, but upon my confession. Okay? Helpful? Do you think it's kind of like today? Things are going bad. God sends difficulties. And when we respond properly, God gives grace. As countries and as individuals. Okay, Dolly, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I have two questions. In Second Chronicles chapter 10, verse 19, it says, this phrase, to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And this phrase, I've read it a few times, and what does this mean? Is
This
it like
day
till
means-
today or?
No, it means to the day of the writing of.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And the other question was when it says, for example, Second Chronicles 12, verse 15, it says the records of the Shemaiah, the prophet, and of Iddo,
The
are
seer.
they not written in the records? So where are these writings, or what are these? Are these books?
Okay, that's a good question. These are official records out of that time. We do not have them. Maybe we'll find them, but we don't have them. They're not inspired. It would be like saying, if you want to read more about Helmut Kohl, look at his biography. Or if you want to read a commentary about Angela Merkel, look at the FAZ. So, but we don't have these anymore. They're gone. But that's a good question.